We've moved into a state of martial law. I keep telling people that, and they go, well, what do you mean by that? We have a government now that's so armed that there's nothing you can really do. If you're afraid of a government agency, you're in the wrong country, folks, if you think it's a democracy.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and this is the Miles Franklin Weekly Special for June 27th, 2023 through July 4th, 2023 while supplies last. This week we feature Asahi Silver Rounds at $3.49 over spot, 2023 1-ounce silver maple coins at $4.25 over spot, and backdated 1-ounce silver Australian kangaroos at just $3.89 over spot. First, the Asahi refinery continues the legacy of famed private mint Johnson Matthey, which they purchased in 2015 and refined with the same attention to detail, cementing their status as an LBMA certified supplier. Their 1-ounce rounds are 3/9 fine and on sale for just $3.49 over spot. Next, silver maples were the first silver sovereign coins to be minted at 4/9 fine purity, and the 2023 silver maples remain one of the most in-demand coins today. They come 25 to a tube, 500 to a box, and are available at $4.25 over spot. Next, backdated kangaroos are 4/9 fine 1-ounce silver sovereign coins of Australia. They are renowned for their purity and design. They come 25 to a tube and with just 250 coins to a monster box. They are the most affordable monster box available, especially at just $3.99 over spot per ounce while supplies last. Our specials this week are IRA eligible. And if you'd like to learn more about a precious metals IRA, call us, and we'll be happy to help you in that process. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're privileged to have this distinguished returning guest. John Whitehead is the founder of the Rutherford Institute, which defends ordinary people and organizations against overreach by the authorities. John, thanks for joining us this Tuesday, June 27, 2023 on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you for having me, and I want to let people know in 2 days on June 29th, it'll be 41 years ago that I founded the Rutherford Institute, and since then we've defended thousands of people across the country. You know, as many of you may know, we're a nonprofit. I raise money to make sure that people can get a day in court, and I've defended everybody from left, right, middle, weird, non-weird, and have a history of generally helping a lot of people, working with a lot of different groups across the country, left and right as well, when it comes to constitutional issues. I've had people say, wow, what's your political viewpoint? I tell them I really don't have a political viewpoint in the true sense of the word. I have a constitutional viewpoint. In other words, if it violates the Constitution, I'm ready to fight it, because that is our only hope. And when I saw a recent poll by USA Today, by the way, 7 out of 10 Americans now feel the democracy is starting to crumble. They're seeing a lot of crimes in the city, stores going out of business, shoplifting, the raids they're seeing, and IRS showing up at gun shops and demanding records from people, armed IRS agents. And that's the thing that most people really don't understand what's going on when you look at it. We've moved into a state of martial law. I keep telling people that, and they go, well, what do you mean by that? We have a government now that's so armed that there's nothing you can really do. I'm saying, people tell me I'm going to get my gun, we're going to get together, we're going to fight these guys. And I'm saying it's not like 1776. To give you an idea, just to show you, the government has bought over about 1.6 billion hollow point bullets. The government says 1.6 billion hand out to their agents. But listen to this, just to give you some figures that I'm reading to make sure I'm going to get you right here. The IRS now has stockpiled 4,500 guns, 5 million rounds of ammunition in recent years, 621 shotguns, 539 long barrel rifles, 15 submachine guns. This is where it starts getting crazy. The Veterans Administration now has 11 million rounds of ammo, equivalent to 2,800 rounds for each of their officers. They have camouflage outfits, helmets, shields, and all the things they need. The Department of Health and Human Services has 4 million rounds of ammo, with 1,300 guns, 5 submachine guns. This is just some of it. Here's another great, the Social Security Administration. They have 800,000 rounds of ammo for their special agents, as well as armor and guns. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has 600 guns and all kinds of ammo. The Smithsonian now has 620 armed special agents. And here's the crazy thing. Amtrak and NASA, which does the SpaceX and all that, they now have SWAT teams. And I'm going, what in the world is the government planning now? And you have Biden getting now 87,000 IRS agents. They'll all be armed to the teeth. The IRS is coming to people's doors now dressed like SWAT teams. So what they're doing is, and it's on purpose, I'm sorry, call me a conspiracy theorist, but when you have people afraid of their government, I always tell Americans this, if a policeman's pulling you over, you see that light going on for speeding ticket, whatever, and you're afraid, you don't live in a democracy. No, if you're afraid of a government agency, you're in the wrong country, folks, if you think it's a democracy. And we do not have a democracy anymore. I mean, anybody should know that. Let's carefully at what's going on in the country. The government does whatever it wants to do. And I keep asking people, how many of you actually vote for what they do in Washington, D.C.? The taxes, the guns, the surveillance. I mean, when you have, by the way, and I will talk about some of the AI in just a second, when you have a government that's working with Amazon, Microsoft, and those big companies like that, Facebook, maintaining the intelligence clouds for all 17 intelligence agencies. They have access to all the information the government has on us, and the government has access to all the info they have on us. We're in a total surveillance state. They're watching everything we're doing. And you have the Department of Homeland Security doing threat assessments on homes across America that go from green to red. If you happen to own a weapon, which is legal under the Second Amendment, supposedly now, but not really in many instances, you get a red. And I've had some of the cases we've had where people have been drug out of their homes and thrown down the lawn and the cops were mistakenly there. They asked, why are they so agitated? Because on their phones and laptops, they have all this information now about us. And if you're out there just being an activist, going to school board meetings, protesting or whatever, the things that make America great, supposedly, you're now an enemy of the government. And that's true. I'm sorry, they're watching you. You only watch your enemies, folks. So who's the government watching? Everybody. So what are we all? We're a suspect class now. And it's getting so frightened and freaky. I'm telling you, it's, and the FBI, we can go into a bit of their history here, is an organization that's been doing this for many, many years now. And there's a reason they're doing it, maybe because of their early philosophy. But, and I'll tell you one other thing that I've been looking into is the development of artificial intelligence, which basically is taking over already. Once that takes over, folks, don't worry. Guess what the memory will be for artificial intelligence? The internet and everything the government has, by the way. And Mo Gadwat, who just quit Google a couple years ago, says, I'm sorry, he was chief business officer. We're creating a monster here. We're creating God. And he said it basically, that you're not going to have any chance of getting away from this thing. It's going to be, and now you have, this is another crazy thing. The military is talking about creating cyborg infantrymen now. You go to battle. That will mean humans coalescing, even materially maybe, putting in robot arms on certain entities, humans, and having cyborg things going to battle. And again, we're moving into something that George Orwell would go, geez, I didn't even imagine this one. Or Philip K. Dick, a guy who kind of imagined it. And here's another thing, with the FBI, they have this CODIS system with 50 million samples of the DNA on it. Artificial intelligence that we're seeing coming is going to take over everything. We'll have access to all this information, who we are, where we are, what our family history is, basically through our DNA. So what I'm trying to do is get people educated. I keep telling them and using this one phrase, education precedes action. And what does that mean? learn your Bill of Rights, teach your kids. The kids don't learn the Bill of Rights in school now today. They don't know them. I talk to lawyers, by the way. I have to laugh out loud when I ask them, what's the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment? Or what's the First Amendment say? And they'll stumble. They can't give them to me. I mean, occasionally a homeschool kid can, by the way. They'll bounce them out to you because they're getting education. And then they won't read the Declaration of Independence down at all public schools, because if you read it, Jefferson says there, if the government's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, and that's serving us, you can throw them out. They don't want rebels. No, rebels. And I say we need more rebels today. And rebels are people that have empathy, that care about others. They're willing to go out and shoot their mouth off like me. And, I'm still alive. I had one agent who looked me in the eye after he met with me, former FBI agent, by the way. As he was walking out my door, he looked at me and said, "I'm surprised you're still alive." And I said, "Thank you for the warning." And that's exactly what he said. I'm going, "Whoa, dude, can't you say goodbye, good work or something?" But that's what he said.
Now, you've mentioned in passing there that you don't have a political approach, you have a constitutional approach. One of our first people that we ever interviewed on our channel was G. Edward Griffin, the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, about the formation of the Federal Reserve back in 1913. And one of the titles of one of the first interviews we did with him was about how the dichotomy that's put before us of team red and team blue, right hand, left hand, is, he said, those right wing and left wing I finally realized are just two wings on the same dirty bird of collectivism and globalism, and that no matter which party is in office or whatever, the objectives and the ends keep marching forward almost unimpeded, and that is increased size of government, increased intrusion and expanse and overreach of government, unconstitutional expansion of influence, and loss of privacy and freedoms and property rights for the individual. All of those rights you mentioned in the Bill of Rights, maybe there's some specific examples you want to remind people of that have been basically trampled in the past couple of years.
Well, they all have, basically. When the SWAT team can come on your property, sometimes without a warrant, and crash through your door in the middle of the night and kill kids, that kill up to 500 dogs a day, supposedly, these raids. And it's not just, it used to be local police. Now it's the federal government with IRS and FBI SWAT teams. They're doing this kind of crazy stuff. No, you don't have any private property today. And many people will say, well, I own my home. I said, do you really? Where's your deed? Can I see it? I have a copy, but do you have the deed? No. The local government has it. Why? Because they can come get your property if you don't pay your so-called taxes. And the deep state, by the way, there was that key study that came out of Princeton, Northwest University, that showed where money congregated in the United States. They came to the conclusion that the United States was, that D.C. was run by 585 billionaires. And that's the so-called deep state, what works for the government, people with all the money. When you have Zuckerberg and people, Google heads, going into the White House and meeting with the president, and they won't tell you what they're meeting about, and they go away. Folks, this is, like you say, a democracy. You get the truth, you get the info. I can't go into the White House. I go knock on the door and say, I got to meet the president right now. Either let me or I'm going to get mad. They'll arrest you and throw you in jail. We don't have those rights. The people with money, the deep state has those rights. And there is a government underneath this, it was a leaked FBI memo that said the government's basically administrated by the seventh floor group. They're underground. And that leads to another one. They have these underground facilities all across the United States, over 70 of them. Look up, the Washington Post exposed their Mount Weather facility, where right outside of D.C., it even has its own office of the presidency, where all the senators and the big shots, the deep state, go and hide in times of distress. Okay? Listen, wait a second here. I'm paying all these taxes to help fund the government. You are too. All your viewers are. And they don't care whether we have a place to hide in times of a nuclear war or something. They hide. So we're the herd. And the question is, we got to stop saying we're not going to be cattle anymore. That's what gave us this country. It was people who had the guts, the intestinal fortitude to say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to fight back. And I'm not letting you push me around. Jefferson, Madison, you go down the list. When you have James Madison, who wrote our Bill of Rights, saying we ought to mistrust all those in power, It was a clear message that people in power get egos. Money, the love of money is the root of all evil. They go bananas. I've seen it happen. I've stood in and out of Washington, D.C. for over 40 years, and I've seen it. I've seen how they think and operate. I've had senators pull me aside and talk to me. And one guy I was walking with, he was a well-known senator once after we'd had a meeting, walking down the street. And he said, John, if people say good morning to you in Washington, D.C., it's for one reason, money. And I went, okay, it's all about money. And it's just the truth, man. Look at the presidents. People go into office, they go out. Obama, you look down the list, Trump, whoever, they got all this money, they just go hide away in their mansions and continue their golfing 150, 160 trips a year, which they do on our taxpayer money when they're in office. So I would say this, if it's time to wake up and, it's like the John Carpenter movie. They live because we sleep. And we do. We're asleep. We think that if we can watch TV, we can do all this thing, be entertained. But I've come to the conclusion that entertainment is slavery. It's still bread and circuses. The Romans knew it, and they used it very effectively on the populace, how to control the average person. Just give them a football. George Orwell had a great quote. He said, give them football and beer, and they can be controlled. And we don't want that. Listen, once you get freedom, once you realize you might be free, you're not going to want that. And it's time to wake up. They live because we sleep, and we allow it. And the problem is, it's the government or of the people, for the people, and by the people, right? We're supposedly, the Constitution starts out with those three beautiful words, we the people do ordain and establish this Constitution. Supposedly we are the government. Then why are we allowing all this crap to be put on us, okay? Why are we allowing them to poop on us? To do all the things they do to us, take our money, steal, and it's the country, by the way, as I look at it now, it's in the worst shape I've ever seen it. There's that 2030 video the Pentagon put out predicting that in 2030 the country's going to collapse. They're going to have to implement martial law. And you know something? They can do it in a matter of weeks now with all the armed federal agents that work, by the way. The FBI works with a lot of local police chiefs. And so they're ready to go in case there is a rebellion, and they do not want that. And so they're going to push it down if they can.
When we were in Washington, D.C. for the Ron Paul Peace and Prosperity Conference a few years ago, there were speakers, including Senator Ron Paul himself, as well as Representative Massey and others, talking directly about deep state and the existence of the deep state and the pervasiveness of the deep state. I think that a lot of Americans would have considered that to be conspiracy talk until just a few years ago, when we've all been through the last 3 years where a lot of hands of cards were revealed by those in positions of power, imposing restrictions on others. Any lessons that you see that we've learned over the last 3 years that hopefully will be waking people up if they pay attention?
Yeah, I think the lessons are out there. Again, there was another study, and this is kind of a scary one, by SMU University in 2018 that tried to determine where psychopaths congregated in the United States. I think you can guess where. It's Washington, D.C. And a psychopath is somebody that cares about themselves. They want to be embellished, loved, and all that. And they can be mean and nasty and rip people apart. Well, you see it occasionally with some of these presidential candidates once the glitter goes away. And so we're dealing with a psychopathic government that wants total control. And it has the idea that we, the people, are the herd. And I keep saying, do you really want, that's what they believe, that we're cattle to be led to the slaughter. And they want us out there working hard for them, making the money so they can keep in power and doing all these things for them. They want to use our energy. They put our kids through schools now where they don't learn the Bill of Rights, don't know their freedoms and stuff. And the average American is just willing to march in lockstep. Like, oh, yes, let's get in line. And Hitler said it best. He said, what's the best thing for a leader? A sleepwalking people. That was an actual phrase he used. Sleepwalking people. How did Nazi Germany come about? Because people went, Heil Hitler, he's a great one. We really like this guy. And in the face of everything, and here's the thing, it's out there, the information's out there. It was in the newspaper. There's a really good book by a fellow named Robert Gelately called Backing History, professor who studied the background of everything that happened in Nazi Germany through all their files. He went through it paper by paper and came to the conclusion that the average German knew what was going on, basically. That they were taking people to concentration camps and put places like that, Auschwitz, and they were putting up with it so they could go on and have their nice daily life. And that's why I'm saying here, we need more rebels. I keep saying, what is a rebel? That's someone who cares about others. That rebel is willing to get out there and speak truth to power, and that's what we need, and put themselves on the line, not violently, because that's not going to work. Like I say, they'll blow your head off. And once you get violent, the news media is going to be yelling, yeah, shoot them down. And one thing we hadn't discussed, and you had mentioned earlier on, was the media. You know, Carl Bernstein with Bernstein and Woodward, and I documented in my book, Battlefield America, The War on the American People. He wrote an article saying he was shocked when after they had outed Nixon, he started working with the mainstream media. He went through NBC and all these people saying they work with the government. The government actually, CIA, NSA actually sits in their offices, helps write articles and vet articles. They aim something at the populace. And what I'm saying is, if you're very foolish to watch the media, the news programs that you see on television, and actually believe it. Come on, folks. Look at the people giving the news. I mean, they look like they just stepped out of a hair salon, and a artificial facial, what do you want to call it, dermatologist, to get things taken care of. But it's scary when I see it. There's not intelligence discussions going on anymore. And we're not waking up. The only way you're going to wake up is to do your research. And there are good websites out there. There's good shows like this one that you're doing, Dunnigan. It's books like mine, like Battlefield America. It's websites like Rutherford.org and others out there that have a lot of information. You can go on there and get educated. And if you have kids, I tell people, start teaching your kids these important ideas in your home, because they are addicted to their digital heroin today. The cell phones, which, by the way, like I say, and this is coming true, it's going to be controlled by artificial intelligence, which is going to basically turn them into miniature robots, easily controlled, feed them all this information. They will believe the baloney and go out and do what they're going to do. They're not going to rebel. They don't want rebels. They don't want anybody that's going to talk back. And I understand, when you have people like the FBI watches everybody, by the way, I talked about earlier. They had 17,000 pages of information on Martin Luther King. They watched John Lennon. He actually wrote a song called Nobody Told Me There'd Be Days Like This. He said and one of the lines in the song is, there were Nazis under the stair listening to me. The FBI actually had people under his house, down where his rental place, listening to him in a bathroom down there as all of his phone calls. Why? Because he was advocating peace on earth, goodwill toward others. That's exactly what they don't want. They want war. We have a war machine that makes so much money, and if you take a stand against those kind of things, they're going to hit you in the head. But I would say this: I'd rather get hit in the head than to be a complete idiot by the time I die.
It's even those of us who may be complete idiots have been unable to escape noticing recently, every time you turn around, there's another story about the FBI raiding another, whether it's a former president or whether it's a current politician, whether it's a business person, whether it's an ordinary individual, about matters that seem in some cases much lesser than those which got glossed over from the Teflon favored few. Can you talk to us about what you've been learning recently about the actions of the FBI? Because it's been in the news basically every week for the last couple of years.
Yeah, we have a commentary that we did on June 20th, 2023. You should go on and read it. It's about the FBI entrapment schemes. But there are some young men, they tried to talk into doing violent acts like blowing up this or doing that. They've been actually caught. And it's amazing. They get informants, and they pay them to commit up to 15 crimes a day, 5,600 crimes a year. And these informants get paid some up to $85,000 a year. Okay? And they listen, this is another thing I've studied history. FBI way back in the 60s was going into people's certain people they wanted to lead into their operations and would have to actually offer them money so they would go out and spy on their neighbors and friends. Those are facts, and watch them. And that's probably still happening across the country, folks. And listen, they don't need to do that, though, a lot these days because everything we do now is being watched. Everything we're being listened to, our phones, our laptops. The FBI admits now, they've actually admitted, they can turn your phone on from a distance when it's off and turn it into a listening device. The laptop becomes a camera for them to view. Your television set, listen, Amazon doorbells, the Ring doorbells, listen to you. The cops have access to all that information, and they're sharing this all with the local police because they want one thing: control and obedience. And if you're being disobedient, you're going to be watched further. If you get too far, and they can actually get a threat assessment on your home with the Department of Homeland Security that's a red, they can blast through your door and shoot you. That's happened, folks, across the country. We've detailed some of these cases in our articles and in our books that where they go through the door in the middle of the night and shoot people who have done nothing. They're in the wrong home. A decorated veteran in Arizona, the police were doing a SWAT team with the FBI, by the way. They're trying to find pot, marijuana now. That's a dangerous substance, by the way. If you smoke it, you get too mellow. And they were raiding these homes. They went into this one veteran's home. All he had was a hunting rifle. He put his child and his wife behind him in the closet. Got his rifle, stood at the end of the hallway, not thinking it was burglars. It was the police. They shot over 70 times and killed him. But guess what? No marijuana was found in his home. And what happened with the police? And this is another weird thing. They got qualified immunity. And we've been in a number of cases where the police have done egregious things, and we've sued the police afterwards to get accountability, and the courts give them qualified immunity. They're just doing their job. Well, listen, that was the same philosophy in Nazi Germany. They were just doing their job, and they were arresting people and taking them away.
John, you have written extensively both articles and books on how we can resist, how we can speak up. As you've said to us before, education precedes action. That's what people are doing here, is waking up and educating themselves about the existence of this and how it departs from the proper authority granted to the people of our country through our, through our Creator, and then written about in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. If people want to find out more of your writings on these topics and what they can do to educate themselves and their children, where should they go?
You go to Rutherford.org. That's Rutherford.org. You can see all the cases we're involved in. We do a lot of press releases. We do a weekly commentary, which is footnoted, by the way. And it's put out there basically to wake people up and get them educated. And again, I'll say, if you get educated, once your brain's going to come alive, and you get together with people in your neighborhood and get active in your local governments. And I'll say this, one person with a sign at a local city council meeting is considered a weirdo. 3 people with the same sign is considered a movement. They get nervous, folks. Time to take action in your local communities.
And we're grateful for all the places in our country where brave people have done that in the recent years. We've seen school board meetings and other meetings where that has been happening at a local level. We've also seen some people on the state and national stage speaking up and talking common sense, talking constitutionally grounded truths. And it does resonate with people because people know the truth when they hear it, and it does help people to wake up. You're one of those voices, John, and we're grateful for your presence here always with us on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you, sir, for your good work.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we can let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Kaiser, my brother Elijah, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.